Chapter 1. The Star That Screamed. Dr. Mira Vallon had been studying stars since she was 6 years old. She'd grown up beneath the flickering dome of Europa's artificial sky, where real constellations didn't shine, and everything she knew about the universe came from holograms and spectral analysis. Even then, her fascination had been with the things no one fully understood: gravitational lensing, stellar evolution, the collapse of matter into nothingness. But it was black holes that had held her deepest obsession. The idea that something could be so powerful, so indifferent, that it bent the very structure of space and time around it. It haunted her. So when the deep-range probes started whispering about Sagittarius A*, humanity's largest known black hole, Mira had known this was where she would end up. She had clawed her way through the most competitive astrophysics programs Earth and Mars had to offer, apprenticed under rogue quantum theorists, and refused more than one quiet offer from military research stations wanting to weaponize her genius. Eventually, she landed on the Kepler's Reckoning, an interstellar observatory ship on the edge of the galactic core. And now, after a lifetime of theories and equations, she sat strapped in the zero-G chamber, watching a star die in real time. Pulling up the latest neutrino scatter, she said quietly to the ship's AI. Let's overlay gamma and X-ray spikes from the last 3 hours. Filter the static. I want to see if this decay is natural. The AI responded with its smooth, emotionally sterile voice. Done. The data stream has been filtered and mapped. Irregularities at 12-minute intervals. Her eyes widened. That wasn't natural. Stars didn't pulse like that unless something was wrong. She floated forward, brushing her fingers across the surface of the control sphere. Her implants flared, linking with the AI. The data bloomed in her vision like a living thing. Tidal forces, accretion disk radiation, electromagnetic shifts, and woven into it, like threads of a forgotten language, were pulses that repeated not only in frequency, but in structure. There was a message in the noise. Myra's breath caught in her throat. Computer, map the intervals across a Fourier analysis. Cross-reference any known linguistic or mathematical base structures. A pause. Preliminary results indicate non-random modulation. Probability of artificial origin, 96.1%. Her skin prickled. She was suddenly aware of the blood rushing through her limbs, the way her heart beat louder in her ears than the ship's engines. Record this. Archive all logs. Bring the crew. The AI activated General Alert Protocol. Lights shifted in the observatory chamber. A soft tone echoed down the corridors. Moments later, figures floated through the access tunnels. Lieutenant Sarai, Commander Helix, Engineer Wong, and finally Captain Wren, whose lined face and graying temples betrayed a lifetime in the void. "What's going on?" the captain asked. Mira didn't look away from the star. It was a G-type main sequence star, bright and golden, just like Sol, and now its corona was unraveling into a stream of plasma that spiraled downward into the black hole's invisible mouth. But the way it spiraled, the patterns were too smooth, too timed. It wasn't chaos. It was precision. "This star is transmitting," Mira said, "and it's not dying on its own." The room was silent. Commander Helix frowned and pulled up a display on her wrist. "You're suggesting intelligent modulation? From the star itself?" "No," Mira whispered. "From something inside the star." They all turned toward the viewing dome. Through the layers of polarized glass and radiation shielding, the star's agony was visible in color-filtered bands. It should have been random turbulence. But now, looking at it with fresh eyes, the crew could see the unnatural precision. Peaks and valleys in radiation levels. Repeating arcs in the mass ejection. The signal had a rhythm, like breathing, like a heartbeat. The AI confirmed what Mira already suspected. The pulses formed a prime number sequence, repeated across different spectra. Then the number stopped. A new pattern emerged. Words, or something trying to be words, encoded in neutrino burst variants. "We are prisoners. You're next." Mira heard gasps. Wong turned pale. Sarai muttered something under her breath that sounded like a prayer. "Computer," Wren said slowly, "verify message integrity." Message verified. Confidence threshold 99.7%. Cross-checked against stochastic error rates. Helix looked at Mira, horror beginning to bloom on her normally unreadable face. Are you saying there's a civilization inside that star? No, Mira replied. I'm saying there was. But it's being torn apart. She tapped through the layers of plasma imagery, isolating deeper anomalies. We're not just seeing magnetic turbulence. There are structures inside, megastructures, webs of solar-scale material now disintegrating, Dysonian scaffolds, maybe even reactors. Something intelligent was built inside the star. Captain Wren exhaled sharply. And the black hole ate it. Myra's voice was grave. No, it targeted it. The next 24 hours blurred into a frenzy of analysis, simulation, and deep-dive AI pattern recognition. Kepler's reckoning launched 2 Class 3 probes into the accretion stream. They lasted minutes, long enough to confirm the impossible. The black hole wasn't just a gravitational well. It was controlled. The idea went against everything they knew. But the data was clear. The black hole's pull wasn't a simple effect of mass. It adjusted its tidal forces based on external stimuli. It twisted spacetime in calculated ways. It hunted, and Sagittarius A** was the apex predator. Mira traced old star catalogs. Quietly missing stars, ones that had disappeared without nova or collapse, started forming a trail. 54 known stars. All high metallicity, stable, main sequence types. All gone. All spiraled into Sagittarius A*. The pattern was thousands of years old. No random event. No celestial coincidence. This is a serial execution, Mira said, eyes bloodshot from sleepless analysis. It waits until a civilization reaches a certain level of energy manipulation. Then it consumes them. Not randomly. With intent. Captain Wren frowned. How could it know? Mira hesitated. It doesn't need to watch. All it has to do is listen. Energy output from advanced civilizations leaves a gravitational fingerprint. Waste heat. Quantum signal drift. Once a species broadcasts, it's already marked. Like we did, Wong said softly. Everyone fell quiet. They were drifting just 30 AUs from the galactic core. Close enough to see the black hole's event horizon pulse with radiation. Close enough to be seen if it was watching. What if it's more than just a predator? Mira asked, almost to herself. What if it's a collector? Helix raised an eyebrow. Of what? Civilizations. Knowledge. Thought. What if it doesn't just destroy? What if it stores? Wren shook his head. Why would a black hole store anything? But Mira was already lost in thought. Hawking radiation, relativistic time loops, information theory. Theoretically, the event horizon could encode data from anything it consumes. What if inside that singularity is a library? Helix's mouth twitched. You think it's archiving stars? Not stars, Mira whispered. Cultures. 2 days later, the first deep core quantum ping came back. Chapter 2. The eye opens, asterisk, asterisk. The silence after the message was the worst part. No alarms blared. No sensors spiked. The ship's hull didn't rattle or buckle. But the crew of Kepler's reckoning felt it, deep in their bones, the weight of being seen by something no human was ever meant to be noticed by. Something vast, ancient, and intelligent beyond reckoning. Captain Wren issued a level 1 containment order. Every outgoing signal was cut. No pings. No transmissions. No drive wakes. The ship drifted dark and cold, using only passive sensors. It had stared too long into the abyss, and now the abyss had stared back. Inside the command sphere, Mira Valen sat alone, her eyes fixed on the hollow vector grid. A deep part of her mind still tried to rationalize it. Maybe the phrase was coincidental, just entropy echoing through radiation. Maybe it wasn't a message. But another part of her, older, intuitive, the part that had grown up imagining stars as gods, knew better. It sees you was not a metaphor. It was a statement of fact. And the moment it knew where to look, it had begun reaching. A shudder ran through the ship as the background gravitational field shifted. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, But Mira had lived her life around precision instruments, and this was no cosmic coincidence. Something in the mass surrounding Sagittarius, a backslash asterisk, was adjusting course. The vectors didn't point randomly. They pointed at them. When Helix came into the chamber, her jaw was tight, her posture too straight. The dark ring around the event horizon has changed position. AI says it's reorienting. Mira blinked, suddenly dry-eyed. Reorienting how? Toward us. She felt the gravity of the words before she understood them. Like it's aiming? Helix nodded slowly. That's impossible, Mira said, though she didn't believe it. It's not just real, Helix said. It's accelerating. And it's not alone. They pulled up the new telemetry scans. Behind the first massive ring, another dozen shapes emerged. Huge, layered constructs wrapped in warped spacetime. It looked like a fleet, except it didn't move like one. These weren't ships. They were segments, each one tethered to the black hole by invisible forces, arranged like the limbs of a spider coiled in its web. And they were extending. Tentacles, Helix said, if you want to call them that. Mira leaned closer. How fast? 3% light speed and climbing. If they continue on vector, we're in range within 6 days. That was assuming the Kepler's reckoning stayed exactly where it was. Ren wasn't going to let that happen. The captain had been in the void longer than any of them. He'd seen war on the Martian moons, had lost friends to solar flares and mutinies and strange anomalies in the Kuiper drift. But now, for the first time, he seemed afraid. We need to burn hard, he said in the command briefing. We'll slingshot around the dwarf planet axis 7 and dive toward the galactic plane. From there, we can launch the beacon drone back to Earth. They need to know what's coming. No, Mira said. The room fell quiet. Ren raised an eyebrow. If we run, she continued, we'll confirm it. That we're intelligent. That we're afraid. That we're worth hunting. Right now, it knows we're here, but not who we are. The signal was ambiguous, deliberately so. If we act like prey, we become prey. You're saying we don't run? Helix said flatly. I'm saying we don't act. Not yet. We learn. Ren paced slowly, fingers behind his back. And if they reach us before we learn, then at least we'll understand what kills us. The silence that followed said everything. In the dark belly of Kepler's reckoning, Mira and engineer Wang modified one of the quantum probes for a suicide dive. It wasn't meant to survive, only to get close enough to the innermost segments of the black structure orbiting the singularity. They programmed it with a narrow-beam neutrino camera and quantum fold sensors tuned to capture spacetime deformation on the femtosecond scale. It launched with a whisper of ion propulsion, and then it vanished into the black. For nearly 3 hours, there was nothing. Then it came back. Not the probe itself, it was gone, vaporized by radiation and gravitational shear. But the data packet came through, compressed into a stream that almost killed the AI trying to decode it. Mira, Helix, and Ren gathered in the observation core as the AI reconstructed what it could. First came the images. The megastructures were hollow, honeycombed with latticework tunnels large enough to swallow cities. Along their surfaces were spires and veins that glowed not with light, but with absence, negative energy flux. Anti-light. They fed into massive gimbaled structures that spun with terrifying precision. At the core of each segment was a sphere impossibly black. And within that sphere, movement, life, Mira breathed, or the echo of it. The AI filtered through the sphere's radiation signature. Buried in the quantum noise was a pattern. Not random, not natural. It was the same modulation as the earlier neutrino pulses, but more intense, more structured. You're looking at a brain, Wang said. Mira turned slowly. What? He nodded. These spheres, they're neural cores, or something close. The data from the probe, it shows synaptic mapping, fractal signal chains, like neurons, but on a planetary scale. Ren frowned. So this construct, it's alive? Mira shook her head. It was alive. The pattern's decaying, like a fading consciousness. Or, Wang added, like a backup. They all looked at him. What if the black hole didn't just eat civilizations, he asked. What if it downloaded them, copied their minds, their structures, their memories? Into these cores. Helix narrowed her eyes. You're saying those rings are built from the souls of stars? Mira didn't answer. She was too busy watching the final part of the data stream. Because in the last microsecond before transmission, the probe had captured something else. A shape moving within the central void. A creature of light and shadow. Vast, winged, and shifting through dimensions the eye couldn't follow. It had no face, no body. Just motion. And it turned. And it looked at the probe. And smiled. Mira recoiled. The AI stuttered. Image artifact. Processing unstable. Probability of hallucination, 14.2%. But it wasn't a hallucination. Something inside the black hole had reached out. And now they knew it had a face. That night, Mira dreamed in equations. Not metaphorical ones, literal equations. Strings of tensor fields and probability clouds, cascading across her mind like falling stars. She saw the collapse of stars and the birth of consciousness from entropy. She saw civilizations burning bright and fast, and each one ending the same way. Torn, pulled, translated. She awoke with blood on her nose and a word on her lips. Translator. When she pulled up the AI records, she found anomalies. Since the message, their AI core had begun rewriting portions of itself, optimizing neural logic, rewriting storage protocols. Mira had locked down the mainframe immediately, afraid of some sort of viral intrusion. But what she found wasn't a virus. It was a gift. Chapter 3. The Memory War. Silence had grown thick aboard Kepler's reckoning. Not the natural hush of deep space, but a deliberate quiet. People walked softer. Conversations were fewer, whispers sharper. The corridors of the ship felt more like the halls of a mausoleum than the arteries of a mission vessel. Something had changed in the crew, in the air, in the very walls. Mira Valens stood at the heart of it. Since her exposure to the alien drone, Mira hadn't slept without dreaming someone else's dreams. Not abstract, fleeting impressions, but vivid experiences, alien lives, alien deaths. She'd been a matriarch on a moon of hydrogen clouds, a foot soldier in a war fought with thought and song, a child breathing methane in a city that pulsed like a living heart. These weren't visions or hallucinations. They were records, real memories. She was no longer an observer. She was becoming a vessel. In the data extracted from the drone, she had unearthed a language not based on syntax, but memory itself, engraved into complex data structures that reacted like neural matter. The more she engaged with the information, the more the memories nested inside her. She didn't just see them anymore. She remembered them. It wasn't only frightening. It was disorienting. Somewhere inside her, Mira could still feel her true self. But it was smaller now, surrounded by the weight of endless lives, each whispering for recognition. The alien drone hadn't merely transmitted a message. It had seeded her mind with a piece of the archive. And the archive was hungry. The phrase repeated in her thoughts like a refrain, "We remember you." And now, it expected something in return. Helix Trans stood over Myra's station, studying the neural interface logs in grim silence. The scan showed a massive surge in synaptic activity, exceeding even hyperlearning benchmarks. Myra's mind was moving faster than any human brain ever recorded. Patterns emerged that resembled consciousness models, but alien ones. None of it matched Terran psychology. "She's becoming a processor," Helix muttered. "No, a node." Mira sat on a reclining frame, shivering despite the thermal mesh layered over her. Her eyes were wide open, pupils dilated, her skin slick with sweat. She looked up at Helix slowly. "They want us to join them." Helix blinked. "Who's they?" "The archive. The ones who came before. The civilizations lost to the eye. It's not a black hole. Not entirely. It's a structure. A mechanism built around it." "You're saying it's alive?" Mira shook her head. "No. It's many lives. Billions of them. All stored, encoded. It preserves what dies." "Preserves?" Myra's voice was nearly a whisper. "Not for history. Not for honor. It keeps memory because that's all it values. Identity. Experience. It consumes stars to power recollection." Helix stepped back. "That's insane." Myra's eyes darkened. It's alien, not insane. The next command briefing was urgent. The alien structures in orbit around the eye had shifted again, no longer in random drift, but converging into a spiral formation. A gravitational alignment so precise it echoed the patterns of engineered systems. Commander Wren paced slowly, watching the real-time display above the conference table. Wang, head of astrodynamics, pointed to the simulation. They're not collapsing, they're coalescing. Each tendril is sinking, like synchronized limbs of a larger machine. Toward what? Wren asked. A focal event, Wang replied. A compression. Either they're building something inside the event horizon, or something is coming out. Wren looked grim. We thought this was a graveyard. It may be a birthing chamber. Helix cut in. Mira thinks it's a beacon. A broadcast system. The room fell silent. She believes it sends memories, that it's part of a larger network. Wren scoffed. You mean there are others? Wang nodded. Statistically, if one exists, there may be thousands. Mira stood in the doorway. No one had seen her enter. It's not a singularity, she said softly. It's a library. They all turned. Then what is it calling? Wren asked. Mira met his gaze. Reinforcements. Or an audience.